out there in Banjo land? Mike Heading here, coming to you today with another lick lesson. I've done 10 licks in G, 10 licks in C. I did an intermediate version of 10 licks in D, but I wanted to do something for the beginners out there. As banjo players, I know I'm always looking for more licks in the key of D. I avoided the key of D for a lot of years because I just didn't want to deal with it. And I think a lot of banjo players do that. I'll get to D later. I'll get to the key of D later. So we're going to dip our toe in the water with some D licks. I would call these maybe advanced beginner. I would give this maybe like a 3 or 4 out of 10 on the difficulty level. So I think you can get this if you know some of the basic rolls. We'll break down all the licks note for note. And what's cool about this lesson is I'm just in standard G tuning. I didn't alter any of the strings, and all these licks will work in standard tuning, which is what I like to use. But actually, most of these licks will work as well if you want to spike your fifth string up to A and play like that out of D, which some people like to do. I personally don't do that a lot. I just like to keep the banjo in standard tuning whenever possible. But a lot of people like to spike that fifth string up in the key of D. So all these licks will work as well, either tuning. So let's jump into lick number 1. Here we go. All right, let's start breaking down lick number 1. So the format of these licks is going to be as follows. It's either going to be a 1 measure lick or a 2 measure lick followed by 1 measure of roll. And again, the roll is just kind of going to be a reference point and give you a break if you want to loop it. So again, it's going to be a lick followed by a roll, and then lick followed by roll if you want to loop it. So we're going to use 2 different basic rolls. We're going to hit our thumb on the 4th string, and I've got my 2-finger D down. I've got my index finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, middle finger 3rd fret 2nd string, and I'm going to play 2 forward roll strings 3, 2, 1, TIM twice. So it's a quarter note followed by 8th notes. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4. That's the roll we're going to use, and the only other one we're going to use is just very similar, is we're just going to start with the 1st string and then do that same forward roll. That one you can't loop, but basically what we're doing there is we're sometimes starting that roll with the low D note and sometimes with the high D note. You want to be able to end on both D notes because depending on where the lick is coming from, sometimes ending on that low note doesn't sound as good, especially if you're playing a lick slightly more up the neck. Ending on that super low D note can sound kind of a drastic change in pitches, so that's why it's good to practice both. So again, that's just the roll we're doing at the end after the lick. We have or. Okay, so we're going to start with lick number 1. It's going to be pretty basic just to get our toes in the water. We're going to start with the open 4th string, and I've had this 2-finger D down, and now I've added my pinky up on the 4th fret of the 1st string. That's kind of like a 3-finger D, and you might have seen this 4-finger D where you put your ring finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string. You want to get used to seeing this D chord, the same one. That's 3 fingers or even 2 fingers like we're using in that roll that we just learned. So you have 2-finger version, 3-finger version, and 4-finger version. You can even do a 1-finger version. So it's good to visualize it's all built out of that larger chord shape. It's all the same chord. We're just choosing to put down different fingers. So again, we're going to start with that down, and we're going to do this. And then add our ring finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string. And then go back to open, and then take our other 2 pinky off and ring finger off and do that roll. So the whole thing sounds like this. A little faster. So it's a pretty generic lick, but that means it can work in a lot of different situations. It could work in the key of G if you want to go to a D chord and then back to G, right? So for the ending of a song in the key of G, you could use that lick. So I'm playing like a G, and then here's the lick, D chord, back to G, and I'm doing like a Scruggs lick. So that's a spot you could use it as like a little ending lick in a song in the key of G, like I said. You could also use it in the, if the song is in the key of D, maybe I'm just doing some basic rolling. So I'm kind of doing that basic roll we just learned, and now I can throw that lick in just to spice it up or mix it up. Chords in the key of D that you'll often use are G as well, or A, or even like B minor in more advanced songs. So you could practice playing like D, do that lick, and then maybe go to a G, and then maybe an A, and then do that lick. See how I'm basically creating a little chord progression that could be a future song, right? So, or apply it to a song you know. Basically what you want to do is start using that lick as soon as possible. I call it crowbarring it in. So you just crowbar the lick in, even if it doesn't always work. I find that's the best way to use a lick, because it's one thing to know a lick at your house while you're staring at the tab. It's another thing to be able to play it in a jam session. So the best way is just to crowbar it in there, like I said, overuse the lick until you get it down, and then dial it back to the appropriate level. One more time. Or you could go to like a B minor, like I said, if you want to make it a little more advanced. Or A. So it's a pretty generic lick, like I said, but it'll work on any kind of happy song in the key of D. Okay, so that's lick number 1. Lick number 2 is more of a bluesy lick. So kind of more of that D7 or even a D minor. Okay, so we're not playing happy D this time. We're going to play either like a minor or a D7. So this could work in a song like Shady Grove or Little Sadie, if you know that song, Shady Grove, again, where it's kind of like D minor to C, where you have those, like an F chord, again, kind of that minor bluesy tonality. This would also work good if you're playing like Man of Constant Sorrow or Sitting on Top of the World, like a song with a bluesy quality. This lick would also work in those situations. Okay, so here's the lick. It's not too hard. I'll show you a couple ways to do this one. So we're going to be playing out of this D7 shape this time. So I've got my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, index finger 1st fret 2nd string, and then what I'm doing this time is I'm playing this 2-finger D chord with a different finger. I'm going to use my ring finger this time. So see how I can play out of this shape rather than having to flip back and forth, which you can do. It just creates a little more work. What I'm doing is I'm just playing basically a 2-finger kind of cheater chord, like that. So what we're going to do on this one is a forward reverse roll. So I'm in this D7 position, I roll forward, strings 3, 2, 1, T-I-M, and then I'm going to hit the open 4th string. Instead of the 5th string like you might in a normal forward reverse roll, I'm going to hit the 4th string just to keep it in the key of D. And then I'm going to take my middle finger off, and you can take your index finger off if you want, but I'd keep it down, and then roll backwards, 1st string, 3rd string, ring finger down to the 3rd fret of the 4th string, and then open 1st string, and then low D, and then stay in that position. So move your ring finger back to the 3rd fret and do that roll. And if you switch to this one too, it's fine. Either way, I'll show you. If you loop it, it's probably better to stay in this shape. If you're just playing the lick once, it's totally fine to flip. So we're going to do this. Or with the finger flip. So it's the same lick, essentially. We're just either using these fingers or this finger, same chord, right? So here we go one more time. makes it kind of a D7, and then this third fret down here kind of adds a minor quality. That's where you're getting that D minor sound right there. Okay. So if you want to make it slightly harder, one thing you could do is add a hammer on to start it. So I'm doing an open 2 hammer on. That'd make it sound even more bluesy. If you want to make it even easier, keep both of these fingers down the entire time. And just play it that way. Don't even take your middle finger off. So you got 3 ways to play that lick. That's another good practice, is taking a lick you know and trying to create a subtle variation, right? Add a hammer on. Make it simpler. Right? So you have subtle variations, and then as written. Okay, so that's lick number 2, kind of more of a bluesy lick. Lick number 3 is kind of a classic Scruggs lick. You might have already heard this one, but you might not have played it in the key of D. It's associated with the song Foggy Mountain Breakdown. It's this. But we're going to do it in the key of D, so we're going to move that lick down to the 5th fret. I've got my middle finger on the 5th fret of the 2nd string. I'm going to bend that note up. At first, don't worry about how much you bend it up. Just kind of bend it up. And then my thumb's going to come down to my right hand and play thumb middle. I'm going to bend that note again. And then I'm going to roll forward 4, 2, 1, 4. Those are the strings while bending that note. And then I'm going to hit the open 1st string and then go back to that roll. So basically what you do is, if you're here in this D chord that we've been playing, all you do is just take your index finger off quick, take your middle finger and slide it up 2 frets, and then you can play that lick. And then you basically slide back down. It's almost easier to play it a little bit faster. So I'm kind of bending it up. It's kind of in between this note and that note. What I would do is just try and mimic the sound. And the other thing I'm doing is, in context, I'm not really worrying about how much I'm bending it up. I'm really more focused on the rhythm. So the rhythm is 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. So it's a tricky rhythm. Let's do just the right hand once. I'm skipping the left hand for a second. We have. I'm just playing the lick, the measure 5 itself. And then we have. So that's the lick. Kind of a D lick. You could play it either resolving to a D or just as like a little fill lick. So I might do something like, if I'm rolling on a D, you do it like that. Or if you're up in an A chord, you could do it like that, and then do it right here. So it's a good lick to get back to a D if you're